So in this video, we're going to start to look at the unit circle. So you can see this kind of nice circle with a whole lot of writing on it. So we'll go through and we'll look at this in a minute. So remember, a circle can be measured in degree or radians. So we're definitely very used to measuring things in degrees, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, 60 degrees, 360 degrees. Radians is just a different way of looking at the circle, a different unit system. So below there's a circle that shows both the degrees, the inner circle here, which I was just pointing out, that's our degrees, and then the radians is the second circle here, the kind of middle one. Okay, so if you notice the radians, they're using pi, so it's using a ratio with pi. Okay. And the outermost circle are the coordinates that correspond to the degree and the radian, which we will eventually use later in the semester here. But right now we're going to focus on just the inner circle and the middle circle. Okay, so 30 degrees is the same thing as pi over 6 radians. Okay, they're just different ways of measuring the same thing. It's just different units, kind of an idea. Okay, so when we're converting between one or the other, there's definitely ways to do that. So another definition we have to come up with, because this is something that's going to be asked in our So another definition that we're going to go over is coterminal. Two angles are coterminal if they have the same initial and terminal sides. And I'll show you what that means on the diagram when we're actually looking at it. But initial just refers to the angle where the angle starts, and terminal side refers to where the angle ends. Okay, so it's just initial, beginning, and terminal, end. So for a given angle, adding or subtracting a complete revolution gives an angle coterminal with theta, and this is the symbol for theta. It's an angle symbol. A complete revolution is 2 pi. So to go all the way around the circle, and we'll see the circle in just a moment again, is 2 pi radians, which is the same thing as 360 degrees, right? If I go all the way around the circle, it's 360 degrees. Well, if I do that in radians, it's just 2 pi. So if we kind of think about that, halfway around the circle would be 180, which would just be pi, right? If it's only halfway. So to get an angle coterminal with theta, we add or subtract a multiple of 2 pi or 360. So we can kind of see how many times is it going around. So let's look at kind of what all this means. So we're going to find an angle between 0 and 2 pi that is coterminal with negative 3 pi. And then we're also going to find an angle between 0 and 360 degrees that is coterminal with 990 degrees. So they're having us do it both with radians and with degrees. So let's go ahead and start off with the radians. So note that negative 3 pi is between negative 4 pi and negative 2 pi. If we add 4 pi, we get a coterminal angle of 0 and 2 pi. So that's, if we're looking for a certain point here, then we can figure out what do I need to add to it in order to get there. Now, if we look at the graph, I think it's a little easier to look at the graph than just kind of see what am I supposed to add or subtract. So if we consider that 2 pi is the 360 degrees, right? We just learned that. We can see here 360 pi, right? We start 0 here, but if I go all the way around, on the bottom side is 360 and 2 pi, because that means I started on the side and I went all the way around. Okay? So if we take negative 3 pi and we divide that by 2 pi, we get negative 1.5, because the pi's would cancel, and negative 3 divided by 2 is negative 1.5. And what I can do is take that and negative 1.5 of 360, which is another way of saying multiply, it would mean that I'd have 360, I'd have negative 360 because it's a negative 1.5, and then I'd have another half of that, which is another 180 degrees. So 1.5 is 1.5. So 360 and 180. Make sure you're paying attention to the negative part of this, because what this means is instead of going positive this way, if you can see that the angles are going positive in this direction, I'm actually going to go negative, okay? So here I'm going to start at the 0. You always start at this point here, and I'm going to go backwards 360 degrees, and then I'm going to go another 180 degrees, okay? So that's my full loop. That's negative 3 pi going all the way around, okay? You can also think of pi as 180, right? So if I'm going negative 3 pi, it means I'm going halfway, halfway, halfway 3 times. So there's a couple of different ways to think about this when you're looking at it. So if you notice, this is where I'm ending right here. And in the same consideration, we have pi. Pi can be divided by 2 pi to get half. Half of 360 is 180, which is pi. So we already kind of talked about that, right? If all the way around the circle is 2 pi, then halfway around the circle is 180. So coterminal means I'm going back the other way, and I want to start in the same place, but then if you notice, I'm ending in the same place. Both of these are ending at pi and 180, or 180, either way. So that's just all this is saying. That makes them coterminal, okay? So pi is actually our answer here. This is what we're looking for. This is our coterminal radian, or 180 is our coterminal degree. Okay, so it's a couple different ways to think about it. Just subtracting, you kind of have to understand quite a bit more about the unit circle to just jump into this explanation that Alex gives you. That's why I wanted to explain, how do you actually look at it on the chart. Okay, so now let's look at the angle piece. So note that 990 is between 2 times 360, which is 720, and 3 times 360, which is 1080. So what they're doing is they're figuring out how many 360s there are. So 990 is between 720 and 1080, which is just 2 360-degree turns or 3 360-degree turns. If we subtract 720, we get the coterminal angle between 0 and 360. So when it's asking between 0 and 360, it's just saying we don't want it to be more than 1 turn. Okay, and I didn't really go over that with the first part. I should have mentioned that in the first part. It said between 0 and 2 pi, because that's 1 turn of the circle, right? That's why it's asking us to go between 0 and 2 pi. So with this one, it's just 0 and 360. So we can also divide 990 by 360, and we get a remainder of 270, because it only goes in 2 times with a remainder of 270 left over. So this means 270 is the coterminal with 990. So you can look at this 990 minus 720. That gets me the 270. And I know I'm going to want to kind of focus on that smaller one that they started with, because I'm not going to go over the amount I've started with. I'm going to say, well, this is as close as I can get multiplied by 360 and then what's left over. So if we look at the graph, 990 is 360 plus 360. That was the 2 of them, right? That's the 720. And then plus another 270. So if we actually spin this around, I can go once. That's the first 360. I can go again. That's the second 360. And then 270 is just 3 turns here. It's 90, 90, and 90. That's 270 degrees. So I'm landing right here on this 270, right? You can see that spot here. Or if I was looking at radians, it would be 3 pi over 2. So this is my coterminal angle. And I can look at that also graphing the 270, because I can see 270 would start in the same place and then spin around and go here. So they're going in the same direction this time because they're both positive. They were going in opposite directions last time because I did one positive and one negative. To look at the between 0 and 2 pi. I don't want to look at between 0 and negative 2 pi. That's not what the question was asking me. All right, so this was the beginning of looking at the unit circle and between radians and degrees. So I hope that helped, and I will see you in the next video.